The strangest thing about Christmas Eve was that the woman I had secretly loved for almost 2 years finally looked at me and asked the one question I had been terrified to answer. It happened in broad daylight, with sunlight spilling through the office windows and snow beginning to dust the city sidewalks outside. I had meant it as a joke, a harmless way to make her smile after watching her spend another Christmas surrounded by people who never truly saw her. But when she looked into my eyes and quietly asked, "Pretend, or real?" my heart stopped, because suddenly the joke felt like the most serious thing I had ever said. My name is Rowan Mercer, and until that Christmas, I had become very good at pretending that I was fine. I worked as a graphic designer in a small publishing company, lived in a modest apartment above an old bakery, and spent most evenings taking care of my younger sister's little boy while she worked night shifts at the hospital. Life was busy, sometimes exhausting, but I had learned not to complain. The one person who made my difficult days feel lighter was a woman named Celeste Marlowe, my coworker and, though she did not know it, the person I had slowly fallen in love with. Celeste was intelligent, warm, and endlessly kind to everyone around her, yet whenever Christmas approached, something changed in her. Her smile became quieter. She avoided conversations about family, refused invitations to holiday parties, and always found an excuse to leave the office early. That December morning, our office was decorated with tiny lights, paper snowflakes, and a Christmas tree near the reception desk. Everyone was talking about their plans for Christmas Eve. Some were traveling, some were hosting dinners, and others were excited about spending the night with their partners. Celeste sat at her desk pretending to be busy while everyone around her discussed romantic traditions. I noticed the way she lowered her eyes whenever someone mentioned couples. I also knew that she had recently received an invitation to her wealthy aunt's Christmas gathering, where relatives had spent years asking why she was still single. She had told me once that going there felt less like attending a family celebration and more like walking into a courtroom where she was always on trial. So when she finally admitted that she might skip the gathering altogether, I tried to make her laugh. I told her that if the problem was arriving alone, I could simply pretend to be her boyfriend on Christmas Eve. I expected an eye roll or a playful insult. Instead, she slowly looked up from her desk. Her expression was surprisingly serious. She asked whether I meant pretend or real, and for several seconds, the entire world seemed to disappear around me. I laughed nervously and told her she could choose whichever version made her comfortable. But inside, I was terrified. I had spent so long hiding my feelings that suddenly giving her the choice felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. If you believe that kindness, courage, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like, comment, share this story, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Sometimes the person who needs love most is the one who has stopped believing they deserve it. Celeste eventually agreed that I could accompany her on Christmas Eve. She called it a simple arrangement, nothing more. I promised myself I would respect that boundary. That afternoon, we walked through the brightly decorated downtown streets, surrounded by families carrying gifts and children laughing beneath enormous Christmas trees. The city looked beautiful in the winter sunlight, but Celeste seemed nervous. She kept checking her phone, reading messages from relatives, then putting it away without answering. When we reached her aunt's house, I finally understood why. The place was enormous, decorated with expensive ornaments and glowing chandeliers. Her relatives greeted her politely, but within minutes they began asking questions about her career, her future, and most of all, her relationship status. Then Celeste introduced me as the man she was seeing. For a moment, everyone became silent. I expected awkwardness, but something unexpected happened. Celeste reached for my hand. Her fingers trembled slightly, and I held them gently. During dinner, I watched her slowly change. She laughed more. She stopped looking at her phone. She even told stories from her childhood that she had never shared with me. Yet when one relative made a cruel remark suggesting that she had probably invented a boyfriend just to avoid embarrassment, Celeste's face fell. Before I could say anything, I calmly told them that she did not owe anyone an explanation for the way she lived her life. I said that some people spend years searching for someone who makes them feel safe, and that being alone was far better than being with someone who made them feel unwanted. The room became quiet. Celeste looked at me with tears gathering in her eyes. After dinner, we stepped outside into the cold afternoon. Snow had stopped falling, leaving the garden covered in a thin white blanket. Celeste thanked me for defending her, but then she admitted something that changed everything. She said she had never been afraid of being alone. She had been afraid of trusting someone again because the last person she loved had made her feel as though she was impossible to love. I told her that I understood fear because I had been carrying my own. I admitted that the boyfriend joke had not really been a joke. I had said it because I wanted one chance to stand beside her without pretending she meant nothing to me. I told her I did not expect an answer that night, and I would never pressure her into giving me one. She looked at me for a long moment, then smiled through her tears. She reminded me of what she had asked earlier, pretend or real. This time, she answered her own question. She said she did not want a pretend boyfriend anymore. She wanted to discover what could happen if we stopped pretending altogether. We spent the rest of Christmas Eve walking through the city, sharing hot chocolate beneath glowing streetlights and talking about everything we had been too afraid to say. There was no grand proposal, no perfect movie ending, and no promise that life would suddenly become easy. There was only two people choosing to give each other a chance. Months later, Celeste told me that the moment she remembered most was not when I held her hand at the family dinner. It was when I told her she did not owe anyone an explanation for being alone. She said those words made her realize that love was not about finding someone who completed you. It was about finding someone who made you feel safe enough to be completely yourself. If this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Midnight Tales for more emotional stories. And before the ending, I have one special request: comment "real love" if you believe the best relationships begin when two people stop pretending and start being honest with their hearts. That Christmas Eve taught me something I will never forget. Sometimes the most important words in our lives begin as a joke because we are too afraid to say them seriously. Sometimes the person standing beside us already knows what our heart is trying to hide. And sometimes, when we finally find the courage to ask whether love should be pretend or real, the answer has been waiting quietly between us all along. For Celeste and me, Christmas did not bring a miracle wrapped beneath a tree. It brought something much more valuable. It brought courage, honesty, and a second chance at love. And years later, whenever someone asks how our story began, I still smile and tell them it started with one silly joke on a bright Christmas Eve, and one brave woman who asked me if I was willing to make it real.